This is going to be a great conversation. It's called Cross-Cultural Leadership, Leading Diverse Teams Post-Merger, and this session is going to dive into complexities and triumphs of leading multicultural teams. And this is something that definitely is prevalent here in a merged corporate environment. It can be challenging. I'm sure it goes without saying. We're going to talk about it all. We have a great distinguished lineup today. They excel in promoting inclusive and effective workplaces, and they're going to share inspiring stories. So we're really going to hear a lot of practical tips and other important information that will navigate these cross-cultural dynamics and enhance team synergy. That's what we're looking to get done. So please do put your hands together. I have a great moderator this morning to start our day. Tish Hodge is here, PhR, MSHRM, founder and CEO of the Shine Institute. So I can't wait to see her up here. We're going to invite her up to the stage along with all the panelists. So give her a round of applause. Tish, welcome up. Join with Tish is Dr. Darwin John Moses, the CEO and co-founder of XP Plus Incorporated, Alan Krishnan, the president of Team Up Corp, Amit Bala, the founder and CEO, Transform Into Your Best, and Marco Blankenberg, the international director of Knowledge Works. Welcome everyone to the stage. Please test your mic and take it away, Tish.
Test, 1, 2, 1, 2, DJ
Test,
Tish on
test,
1,
test.
2.
We're live.
Go, girl. Good morning. Did you guys do some jumping jacks this morning? Anybody worked out this morning? All right, we're hoping that our panel discussion, you will get enthusiastically excited about our conversation. And so I want to introduce myself. My name is Tashana Hodge. I go by Tish, and I am the founder and CEO of the Shine Institute. We're going to have each of our gentlemen do one-liner introductions so we can jump into the deep end.
My name is Darwin John Moises, or DJ. That's my short name, and I'm from the Philippines. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a business process management, or BPO company called XP Plus.
Hi, I'm Amit Bala. I am based in London and New York. My company is called Transform Into Your Best. My background's in M&A and investment banking, but I am a transformational coach. So I bring people to the best versions of themselves.
My name is Alan Krishnan. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm president of Team Up Corporation, and I can't tell you how excited I am here to be, because everything in my life is about teaming up, and that's the greatest challenge after M&A. And I've been through several of those. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Marco Blankenberg, lived in Dubai for 24 years. I lead a global team of culture creators, coaches, developers, consultants in 55 countries. And their focus is creating culture from the one-to-one to the one-to-many.
55 countries, how intimidating that can be. So Marco equipped me with some statistics, and he shared a reality check. Check this out. Can you believe, when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, that there are worth $4 trillion? That's a lot of money. 40% is cross-border. Out of the cross-border ventures, at least 70% fail. That's a big fat F. That's failing. So the first question I have for our panelists, and we can take our turns, is what is one skill leaders need to work on in regards to their team during the post-merger situation? What's one skill?
I think we talked a great deal about this yesterday, and this is about empathy, because there are a lot of things and emotions also, that people going through merger and acquisitions, they look at possibilities, but there's also that feeling of job insecurity. And it is important that for us leaders to acknowledge those emotions so that we are in a better position to support them through.
I love that. And I'm just gonna stick one of the stories that our mistress of ceremony shared. I was the corporate HR director for PM Hotel Group, and we took over the Sheraton Meadowlands, which is right across from Giant Stadium, and we converted that into a Hilton. And those employees were not happy campers. We were the third company in 3 years. They were not happy at all. However, we had to instill trust. I lived there for 10 weeks, but just to reinsure trust, I promise you are not gonna have another parent company in 365 days. We are here to stay. So that onboarding process, having to share our values, our mission, our purpose, why are we here, what are we gonna do, what's our goals and objectives for the year, it was absolutely a lot of uphill. I accompanied one young lady to the funeral. She lost her husband, just to show support. And I'm proud to share with you today, we're still managing that particular hotel for that company. I'm not with that company anymore, but I always have to shout out Hilton Worldwide and PM Hotel Group, really take care of their people, but they were insecure. Can you imagine changing companies every year? Anyone else wants to add that one skill?
One of the things we find is that leaders assume that when an acquisition has happened, that they can just welcome the people and that's it. And there are always 4 things that start to shift. So it starts with trust, we already mentioned, rebuilding trust. Then it goes into communication. So the flow of communication, formal and informal, is shifting, has to be recalibrated. Aligning on purpose, especially the people who've joined from the acquired company. And then the 4th one that's really important, especially with the younger generation, is building relational strength. And all 4, you have to assume you have to restart. And that takes time and effort from a leader. And most leaders are either not equipped or they think it's not important.
So I agree with my fellow panelists here. I look at things kind of behind that too. So I agree being empathetic is so important. But I think in order for a leader to be that way, for what I see about people, I believe everybody's got empathy. I think they've either cut it off or they're overly empathetic, right? So what I was coming back to is leaders need to look at themselves in order to be very aware about who they are and where their blocks are, in order to be empathetic, know and read the room beyond the room, okay? Because it's, in terms of cross leadership, you know, you're talking to the people in the room who aren't in the room and then the wider base around 2 or 3 companies, right? So in order for that to be that way, let's look at ourselves, let's keep looking at ourselves, let's build our map up so that we can be empathetic, we can see these things coming, we can bring in the people that we need to. I think that's the most important thing, is everything here is very practical and right, but the real job is you. The real job is the leader itself, to become the leader that they need to be. That's what I think. The skill is you.
Love it. Would you like to add anything, Alan? Okay. Next question. How do you realign the workplace culture after we've acquired? So we've gotten married, right? And we're a blended family. How are we going to realign the culture? We have Philippines and the Virgin Islands in the blended family. Any takers?
I'll take this one. And largely because of you. You first quoted Mark that 70% of cross-culture mergers fail. And then you threw this just like a marriage, and you stole my thunder. I was going to say, Mark saying 70% of mergers fail is pretty good. Marriages which involve 2 people and 2 families, more than 70% fail. And they fail more than once. Is there something to take from there, something to learn from there? A merger of 2 companies involves tens, hundreds, thousands of people. A lot more challenging. But it's no different from a marriage. It needs only 2 simple things. Just one simple thing actually. Integrate the best of both entities. and be open. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. Let's decide. You tell me what's good in me, I'll tell what's good in you, and let's put that and let's make it work. It has to be collaborative, respectful, positive, because we all have a stake in this. You conquered me, you acquired my company. You're not stupid. It's your investment in me. I'm not a piece of crap that you acquired me. I have some strength. And that often is the fight. The conqueror thinks you're great. The conquered thinks, I have something you don't have. That's why you bought me. That has to go. So it's all about attitude. Thank you.
So I totally agree. It's not even a marriage. I live in the UK and born there, but I have Indian heritage. So it's almost a marriage in the same way, right, as I was growing up. And so I agree with that. And I really struggled with the Indian heritage in an English environment, and which, some things I really liked, family orientated of the Indian side, but then they could be overbearing, right? So, I'm like, I don't want that either. So, I have now been fortunate enough to travel all around the world through what I do. And what I would add to that, remember what I said about being aware and, being in your own space as a leader. It's taking the best of the two, but also realizing as well when there is no best between the two either, right? Is there something better out there? So that needs another perspective come in, which is not necessarily the two companies. It's an outside perspective. Right, and being open to that as a leader can be a big thing, right? Because you tend to be burdening yourself with the whole, I need to know everything, I need to do everything, I need to have that kind of foray. So my thing would be open to the best, no matter what culture it is, and create a new culture, and also define your culture through that, not like where you've come from or where you think you're going to. So I would say the best of the two, but also be open to better.
And Amit mentioned about being overburdened.
Yes.
I think in the context also of change management, and this is always what I tell myself, I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with the force field analysis, that minority of the population is going to support that change, and then another minority is totally opposed of that change. But we have a big majority who are often fence sitters. So they're neutral. And chances are, especially also, that's also how I process as a leader, the focus or the default normally is to focus on those who are against, and they would deplete us from our energy. In reality, that's why I would always go back to the force field analysis. The focus should be on those who are neutral. Because aside from they're the majority, they don't have a dissenting opinion about it. So that means they are the low-hanging fruits. And then the second will be on those who are in favor, because we don't want to lose them. And in reality, the last, where we would put our energy on, is on those who are against. So it's like a counter mindset, if you call it that way, because the default always is to be so caught up about those who are not on board of the change, when the focus should have been on those who are neutral, and then those who are in favor, and then those who are against the change.
Love it. Would you like to add?
I'm thinking of an example. One of the clients we worked with acquired a super innovative team, a niche discipline in the financial sector. And I got a call from the gentleman who inherited that team, who said, this is now part of you. And actually a call came when the crisis already hit. And the main reason was that this very innovative team had an incredible flow amongst themselves. And they were not bound by policy, procedure, etc. And the first thing that happened, they lost all of that flow. They became part of a large organization. From now on, you will do it this way. And it didn't take more than 3 weeks before their LinkedIn profile started to change, open for networking. And unfortunately, the gentleman came to us and he said, what do I do? And I said, well, you have to go back to what DJ mentioned, change management. The style you've taken is, you now belong to us, you will do it this way. End of story. That's only one of the 3 possible strategies you can use. But that new team, what they needed was they needed to be guided into these are the non-negotiable new ways you have to do things. And these are the things that we can flex on, where that flow can sort of still be mimicked, but now in a larger organization. And when we started interviewing this team, at least 50% said, I'm done here. And what would have happened is all the knowledge was in their head. Their innovation was in their head. And they would have all walked away. And there are many companies right now, because of the speed of change, because of the need to be on the bleeding edge of their industry, they're acquiring these small innovative companies everywhere. And they think it's just going to be plug and play. And one of our clients we're dealing with right now, the leaders don't realize it's never, ever plug and play. It's never going to happen. So learning to acquire well and create space, listen to their stories, and make sure that their transition is going to be an exciting transition. That's not just based on we now owe you, as Alan was saying, you're going to play our game now.
That leads into the next question, which is a perfect setup. What are some of those main resistance that face leaders that cause them to make those poor decisions when leading diverse teams? Want to pick up from there?
We've come from an era where leadership automatically sort of entitled people to say, because I'm the boss, we're going to do it my way. That does not sit well with especially the younger generation. In general, not even talking about M&A. We work across the world, and I find there's two things that young people have in common. They want a tribe to belong to, and they want a purpose to pursue. And in an M&A situation, that's still true. So if leaders say, well, I'm the boss, I'm going to tell you how to do things. Well, forget it with the younger generation. And that is cross-culturally true around the world. So I would start there. Eat some humble pie as a leader and start building culture.
Yeah. Alan?
Forgive me for going back to marriages, but everything in life is a relationship. If it's my way or highway, goodbye, you're going on the highway. We better recognize that. There was a time when there were so many opportunities. If you don't follow my way or unemployment, and there's no unemployment benefits coming to you, no money to put food on the table. Those days are gone. Today, as an employer, I need you more than you need me. And what this essentially shows is the insecurity of leaders should be taken out. They should be trained. The uncertainty of the future is going to remain. Get used to it. And most importantly, be fair to everybody. If we came from the same company and I'm favoring or over him who came from the other company, guess what? He and everybody else is going to go. And that's what we need to be conscious of. Thank you.
Amit?
So I think the resistance comes from at a high level, on a branch level, communication, right? So I think when you go through these mergers and you come together, I think there is meant to be, in theory, a strategy, which then needs to be disseminated along the whole of the two companies, and given how you do a transaction, for example, it'll be on one side in one way and on the other side in another way, and then suddenly you both are meant to meet and then create glorious babies and all of those kind of things in terms of marriage. So all of that's great, and the communication needs to run, and it needs to come from, I always find when I've done all these deals that, if the individual doing the, whatever they're doing in this whole deal, that cog in the whole wheel, doesn't know what it is that they are, why they're doing what they're doing, like how do they belong in this transaction? That's where you get the, well, am I going to be here? What's going to happen afterwards, right? And then there's deeper layers to that for the individual, right? There's a need for their safety, their security, and all of those things. So I think leaders face the resistance because of the communication. Like, those people don't know why they belong to this, and they don't know where they're going. And then I also think leaders face resistance from themselves, because I start with strategy, right, and then go to people. But how many transactions are not based on the strategy that it's like put out there? Like, how many listed companies, I've worked in many as head of M&A, where literally the strategy is because to fill a financial hole for the half year or the year end, okay? And yet their strategy is really to grow into this market on the outside, develop things out there, yes, but it's almost secondary to the individual leaders, the CEOs, the chair people, whatever, who are wanting legacy or financial, their own financial gains within that company. That's what's really driving it, and that's what's driving some of the decisions at the top, which is incongruent with the people who are doing stuff. So it's like that kid thing. Actions are the ones that they take their lead from, not what you say. So I think the resistance is twofold. I think it's communication out, but that communication from the leader is their own resistance in alignment with the strategy.
The other thing also is too much focus on financial viability, expansion, operational synergy, without necessarily considering that cultural fit is also just as important. And it's among the factors that has to be considered during mergers and acquisition. The clashes, actually, between those cultures, the manner of communication, the communication preference, the structure, because there might be certain cultures that are hierarchy focused or centric, and there are also cultures that are flat and then collaborative. And in those cases, people in this type of culture will look at this as micromanagement. And then people of this type of culture would also look at this as distance. So it's important also to see whether both organizations are culturally fit, whether in the manner of working, manner of communication, structure, and then to be able to address that gap moving forward.
I would like to give an example. So I was a part of taking over a particular property, and I am an open communicator. I start with huddles, what's on the plan for the day. And so I asked the young lady, for a particular task, and I saw her nonverbals. She was not too excited about the question. So we did our hot buttons. This is what turns me on. This is what gets me excited. These are my cold buttons. These are what turns me off. How about for you? And so I learned that she doesn't like questions in terms of her work. So I'm like, okay, how are we going to solve that? And we decided to come up with a board. These are the list of tasks that we have to complete for the month. And when she's finished with the task, she checks it off. So I don't have to ask her, where are we, what's going on. She has her notes, she's working with it, and that was our happy medium, so that she can be in her world, I can know how to give the CEO an update, and so on and so forth. So the next question is for our audience. How do you build trust if you were in an MA, merger and acquisition? You're dealing with someone from a different culture. That particular young lady was from South America. So how have you built trust? You can just shout out your answers. We want it to be engaging. OB.
No pressure, no pressure.
Yeah.
I think there's a big skill here around cultural intelligence. So living in the UK, I remember being at university, and I'll just give an example of a friend in Thailand. And I thought, I think I know your culture. And then I go to Thailand and I realize, I don't know your culture. That there's a real deference to senior leaders. And so you've really got to pull people out. And so I think doing that investigation around culture and what things mean in specific cultures is an important part of just arming yourself to go into an M&A and know how to merge those cultures together. So that's something.
Thank you. I'll take two more. Mr. Barrett, would you let's at the same table, let's go.
Hi, this is Amit Lingarchini. I think when we go for an M&A, I think there is also a concept of not everyone would know everything. Okay, so this has been in my professional career also, where I do a lot of coaching and consulting. I'm sure not everyone knows everything. And this is where you need to start developing that, instill that expertise in people uh, we in this world of UAE, I have seen is there's a lot of outsourcing. We need to start bringing in housing. Okay, we need to develop that skills, that culture, that embed that leadership here. So we don't want someone to come and just teach you and then you run the show. That always creates a short win, not a long-term win. So, and this is what we were doing in the first Abu Dhabi bank. What I did is I create what we call is change agents. These change agents are like the leaders for tomorrow. And then they step on a strategy and a roadmap to understand their own areas and be expert on that area. So tomorrow in next year, you will see 6 change agents, then the next year it's 12 change agents. Like that way you can expand the business, you can expand the things and get onto the new ways of working also.
I completely agree. We would have rising stars. And I'll go to the lady right behind of you.
Hi, my name is Manida Lau, and I'm from Okada, Manila, Philippines. So, for me, I think first thing you have to put away your title, regardless what title you are. Roll up your sleeve and go down and say, hey, teach me how you do that. And from there, then you share the other way or the other perspective of doing the same things. So that is how I build my trust with my teams too.
Thank you so much. If there's no one, yes, we have one here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Amulya Mishra from the Indian Navy. So I would just extend this question. Instead of merger and acquisition in the armed forces, we are on a daily basis exposed to problems where we have people from varied cultures. In India especially, you probably have a team who do not even speak the same language. The same language, they don't even understand each other's language. So what an element of leadership comes in here is before we task the person to do a particular thing, that person should unequivocally know that whatever he or she is being tasked with, the person who is tasking her or him can do it at least 10 times better, if not less. So when that confidence is built in, trust automatically comes in. He or she knows that this person can do, no matter the best of my ability I do it, this person can do it even better. So it is to be, so it is like leadership by example. It is a pull model of leadership rather than a push model of leadership. So it
Thank you. We'll take
you.
one more. The queen of empathy herself.
Thank you. Well, I share my experience. It happened many times to me to lead very diverse teams, which is, by the way, a fantastic experience, which really enrich you as leader. And I think that the key point is for us that lead the teams. I like the word. We need to be teamer more than leader. It's very important that we facilitate the connection between people and put it together, or creating a very practice way teams, working teams, where you have people from the different cultural and as much as diverse. You can bring the teams, the working teams, as much as the best practices of the attitude, the cultural approach, the lifestyle, etc., can be really an element of enrichment for the entire team. But again, we as leaders need only to do one thing: oblige, in bracket, everybody to connect. And we just stare there looking. It's already a fantastic experience in the leadership.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love the answers from the audience. I think it's amazing, and I really see all of that in all the transactions I've done. But I would also look at the biases of yourself when you're looking at trust, because if you're too trusting and you get taken advantage of, but if you're not trusting enough and never allow the opportunities to come in, that's come from your past, right? And therefore, especially when you have the trigger of another culture which is uncertain, you're going to get triggered by things that may look a certain way to you because of your biases, and you go, I don't trust that, when it might be their natural cultural makeup. You want to be in a neutral position yourself in order to see and be able to amalgamate the cultures. So if you're not, if you take something as standoffish in another culture because you have been experiencing people in a standoffish element and being taken advantage of, you're not going to trust them. You're innate, you're already trying to overcome a barrier. So I would always, again, go to the individual and look at your own relationship with trust and where that comes from, and start to release that, and then you can start to do these things that we're talking about.
To Amit's point, we always ask a question on a scale left to right. Is trust earned or is it given? And every team I work with, you see the full spectrum of it. And that's where the internal search starts. The other thing I want to say, we found from working across the world, there are actually 4 key words that you need to start a conversation around when it comes to trust. One was already mentioned by the gentleman in terms of the armed forces. We call it reliability. Can I trust that you'll do a good job? The other 3 words are honesty. How is that handled? Openness and respect. If you figure out those 4 things and how to do those 4 things together, I guarantee you trust will be built fast. If you leave that to everybody else to fill in the blanks, it will not happen. Yeah, so reliability, honesty, trust, honesty, openness, and respect. Those are the 4 things to look for.
I'm glad that we've been talking about cultural intelligence and also biases. When I was growing up as a leader, there's this theory that I was struck, and it's by Covey, when he defined biases or perception as like wearing green shades. So if I'm wearing green shades and I will say that the room is green, I'm not necessarily telling a lie. But what we all know that the room is not green. Now lately, I'm reading this book, this time by David Brooks, and the reason why I like it so much because it talked more about why do we have our own biases. It actually says, and the author actually said, that we don't, and there's a quote also about this, we don't look at the people around us or the world around us as they are. It's largely as we are. Because as a human being, our brain cannot accommodate 100% of the information that's fed to us. So the default reaction of the brain is to connect the dots. And when we begin connecting the dots, that's when we introduce our own assumptions and our own experiences. And so there is always a constant process of rethinking and correcting that perception. And the reason why I like that quote, that book, it's because it surfaces that consciousness on myself to really do the correction. Because by default, as a human being, there is always that tendency to make assumptions and to connect the dots. That's our default way to process experiences.
Thank you so much. I see that there are 12 seconds left. So I'm just going to give it back to our lead mistress of ceremonies if we have time for questions.
Perfect. Any other questions? I know you opened it up. We'll give one more question for anyone. This is great conversation, huh? Give him a round of applause. What a great topic to start day 2. I love it. I love it. And everyone has sharing so much great information. Does anyone have a question, need some clarity, question? Maybe just pose a question to the audience to challenge our brains. Oh, cool. What do you got?
All right. So the second audience question was, what is a successful story that you've had in terms of working with an intercultural team?
We'll leave it for one person to answer that one. Someone has a great story they want to share? Oh, from the back. Yay! I was about to say, don't all hands go up at one time. I'll be giving coffee any minute here. Good morning to everyone else that's joining us.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Mark Ferguson. I work with an international IT and business consultancy called DBGC. But I have 25 years plus experience with SAP and Oracle, big complex software implementations. About 8 years ago, I was working for a German software company, not SAP in this case, but we were acquired by our biggest competitor. And my challenge as the global sales director was to make sure that we didn't lose anybody from our team. That was tricky because our team was dispersed across the whole world. And so the temptation was to kind of get on Zoom and try to communicate with everybody and get them all on side with virtual meetings. Very quickly, you could tell that was no good. Absolutely no good at all. So within a few weeks, I was on a plane, and my 2 sales managers were on a plane, and we just had this policy of getting together with people. Because ultimately, we work with some of the most complex technology on the planet, and the most complex implementations and software projects. The reality is, it's all about people. And if you don't get the people on side, none of the technology works. None of the projects work. You lose customers. And so the reality is, get with the people. Get on a plane, get out of your office, and go and eat food with people, go and get into their mindset, in their office, in their culture, with their people, find out about their families, talk to them about their children, go sightseeing with them. Just get with the people, and it makes such a difference.
Totally agree.
Thank you so much. We couldn't have summed it up any better. Thank you so much, panelists. That was awesome.